If Assassin's Creed Shadows wasn't made by Ubisoft and didn't have AC in the title, would it have received the same response? Honestly, I don't really think so. After countless hours spent in this game with no expectations, I wanted to express my unpopular opinion, which might give you a new perspective. I actually really like Assassin's Creed Shadows, and Christ, I feel like one of the few YouTubers to actually say this. Ubisoft have made various dog-dung games that I found very disappointing, but this just isn't one of them. Yes, it does have flaws, which I will be talking about, but here is why I honestly really like AC Shadows. First, the visuals are nothing short of insane. Maybe some of the best graphics I've ever seen, and the seasons mechanic is so damn good, completely changing the feel of the map. I mean, just look at this for Christ's sake. I think most can agree on the visuals. The gameplay is where things get rather interesting. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of the combat at the start, but as time went on, I began to really like it with both characters. It feels brutal, satisfying, and enemies will give you a challenge, unlike some of the classic games that did feel rather easy. The gore and blood splatters on walls as you batter bellends reminds me of Unity. And I absolutely love the combat in that game. It's nice not to be just stuck with a sword and experiment with other weapons, and the abilities you can perform look badass. Although, I wish we could turn off this shit-piss cartoon effect. It's wacky as hell. Nonetheless, the animations look really satisfying. Blocking and parrying enemies isn't predictable like previous games and will actually rely on your reactions instead of just learning the patterns of enemies. I like how it feels more challenging, and combat does feel far better than in Mirage. One thing I don't think many videos have pointed out is when inside buildings, I love how your surroundings get battered as you twat enemies. It just adds more impact to the combat, and a lot of games just can't be asked to do this normally. I also think they did a great job with animations. Assassinating enemies looks cool as hell, and although I found parkour less polished than I would have liked, it does have some flair. The grappling hook is a great addition and kind of reminds me of Syndicate back in the day, but once again, it just doesn't really compete with the incredible parkour of Unity, which is going to be very hard to beat. Yes, gameplay at times isn't perfect. Yasuke is a bit of a clumsy dump truck. Playing as him does feel like you're at a disadvantage, as he's incredibly slow and lacking at parkour and piss poor at stealth, and for whatever reason, some of his combat animations do get repetitive. I think I've seen this one more times than my own damn mum. But he's really not as bad as some people are making out, and he does switch up the gameplay. I do love how OP he feels, and it does give a very unique gameplay experience depending on which character you choose. But what I did find kind of lazy is how higher level enemies than you instantly kill you with one hit. Yes, I understand that higher level enemies should be far more difficult to kill, but allowing them to kill you with one hit feels like a damn shortcut. It's not the end of the world, as you really shouldn't be battling higher level enemies anyway, but when you do, you're dead as a fucking doornail. What I personally found worse was the horrific use of music in this game. During combat, you'll notice this bizarre, royalty-free hip-hop beat that feels incredibly out of place. The music, for the most part, is actually really fitting and well constructed. It's just during combat at certain parts of the game where you'll hear hotel music that sounds like it's been remixed by a crackhead. The stealth in this game is the definition of a mixed bag. On one hand, it's actually really well put together and more realistic than ever, but on the other hand, it's quite unforgiving, which can be frustrating at times. It's not terrible like some people say, and it's come a long way since the classics, but enemies will spot and hear you more often if you're not careful, making it far more realistic. But if you're not a patient person or just don't like more challenging stealth games like Hitman, you might just give your desk a swift right hand every now and then. Nonetheless, despite its minor flaws that really aren't a big deal, I find the gameplay incredibly enjoyable and more addictive than recent games in the series such as Mirage. Although it's not a popular opinion, the hate the gameplay has received just doesn't feel deserving. And I'll be completely honest, this is the most fun I've had in a AC game for a very long time, but the open world surprised me in ways I really wasn't expecting. If you're enjoying this video so far, hit that subscribe button because over 90% of you aren't subscribed. I'd love for you to stick around and join the 5%. The open world in Shadows and the amount of things to do is a bit overwhelming, but in the best way possible. The map is pretty huge, making it easy to get sidetracked with side quests and random events, which I found really enjoyable. At no point does it ever feel lifeless or boring to explore. But please Ubisoft, I understand that viewpoints are at the forefront of your wet dreams, but please give them the royal can. 14 games later, it's still here. For Christ's sake, I found side quests very enjoyable and worth doing for the most part. Aside from one I haven't really seen many people talk about. Yeah, the bloody shrines. Having to watch the same praying animation about 89 times is pretty fun, to be fair. Knowledge points in this game are important as you need them to unlock more of your skill tree, and praying at shrines rewards you with them. It's just the fact that you have to do it so many damn times and it does get a tad repetitive. Thankfully, the other side quests are far more enjoyable, for example, helping strangers by annihilating bandits, completing contracts, wiping out gangs, amongst many others, which are really engaging. I found myself just getting lost in them. The ones that explore Naoei's backstory are especially interesting and feel like main story quests. The minigame beforehand sucks dick, but it's rather easy and nothing like these ghastly things from Outlaws at least. Learning more about her past and relationship with her dad strengthens the story further, giving it more depth. And speaking of the story, and no spoilers by the way, this is another aspect of AC Shadows that's been slaughtered pretty damn hard, and I have a very different opinion on it. The game is definitely a bit cutscene heavy, and the story is going to be somewhat subjective. As someone who normally finds the story in Ubisoft games kinda mid or boring as hell, this one captured my attention and I became really invested. It's just a shame that it kinda ends out of nowhere, and aside from the ending, it's a revenge plot that you've seen before, but it does a great job of making you care for its characters and exploring their backstories and past, giving them depth. Turn on immersive mode for the best experience possible, as the Japanese voice acting is far better. But if you're like me and can't be asked to read a damn dictionary about 8 times over, the English voice acting and facial expressions are good enough to keep you invested. And I never bothered with the canon mode, which makes important decisions for you, making the game play out the way it's intended. I just felt like it takes the fun away from discussing with friends how your game played out compared to theirs. And you can always just watch the canon cutscenes on YouTube afterwards. It's a cool feature though nonetheless. Now don't get me wrong, it's no Red Dead Redemption 2 story, but I honestly don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people are making out. I found it a huge improvement over the stale story of Mirage. And all bollocks aside, all I care about is whether the characters, plots and missions are well executed or not, and for the most part, yes. As someone who didn't like these AC games, and I know I'm not the only one, Shadows feels like a different animal, but with a lot of undeserved hate. But at the same time, Ubisoft aren't doing themselves any favours by continuing to feature money-hungry microtransactions and making the game unhistorically woke, which was bound to piss off a lot of people. But when do you think Ubisoft will finally stop slapping the AC name on every installment, with how far and different they've become 14 games later? It's just not Assassin's Creed anymore, and surely it's got to stop eventually. Some people genuinely don't like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is totally fine, but there is no secret that there is a percentage of people who are hating on it without giving it a chance. When you see people saying the game sucks because the credits are 2 hours long, despite it being skippable, kinda says it all. All games have haters, but a lot of the hate directed towards AC Shadows feels like it's intended for Ubisoft and not the game itself. I wanted to make this video to give you a different perspective on the game, as I feel like there will be a lot of people who will miss out on playing it just because they listen to some knobend on Twitter giving it a large one. All I would say is, judge it for yourself and whether this is a game you might enjoy, instead of listening to Ubisoft haters or reviewers who are too scared to express their honest opinion and just sit on the fence. And don't pay 70 bloody bucks for it. I'll leave a link down below where you can buy it discounted at Instant Gaming. And make sure you let me know your honest thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to know what you think on this, and to find out what it was like to play the worst rated Assassin's Creed game in 2025. You definitely want to check this out, it's bloody interesting. Click the card on screen to check out that video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.